New selling spot, huh?
Huh?
A new selling spot, huh?
Yeah, for a little while.
Well,
For a little
let's try
while.
that, Karen.
Hey, Karen, nice to meet you. I'm Pastor Dave.
Nice to meet you.
It's good to have you tonight.
Good to be here.
Getting a little rain, huh?
Yeah, it's coming in, getting on out there.
Yep.
It's okay. We can use it.
Yeah, I know. I know. Yep.
Looks nice in here. I like the changes.
Well, thank you. I've been trying to update it a little bit. And it's together. It's slow, but it's coming together. Telling somebody earlier I'd like to snap my fingers, just have it done. But
Yeah.
And utilize this for something different or just
we're going to open all that up, and there'll be a floor up top. Sand will go back up there, and then we're going to put double doors right in the middle. Double doors.
so
You'll have a sound system up again here?
Yeah, it'll be back up there. Yeah.
Big, up total length.
Yeah, it'll be the total length and width of that. That way they're not in a box and they can hear better. They can't really hear up there. So, and then
Yeah,
we wanted to open up the entryway. So this way it'll be sitting on this wall and we take the post out and all that. So,
is it going to sit on this one?
yeah, the floor will sit on that wall. Yeah. Yeah, these posts, they're just holding this floor. They're not really holding, that's a full truck, so it spans just like these. But we'll have to change that to get a little more head clearance, but that'll be, after we get the floor on, hopefully, then you won't see it. It won't be. Right now, trying to get that out and then get the wall framed in, all that insulated. And then the floor will go on, the door will go in.
You're talking about the main entry?
Yeah, the main, the double left, was right here. That way, when you come in the front building, you know, we're gonna reroute all that down the line. We'll get back in. It's more, line.
In the,
Right.
It's been that way for years.
It's sold. You know, it's sold. It's about
18, 20 years ago. We came to it.
Yeah.
Must have been about 18
Yeah,
or 20
we're-
years.
That's when you came to Missouri. But, I mean, that's like,
It's all
yeah, I tried to work it out. So I had one of the sound speakers coming out there. Yeah, what's coming out there?
There was a little speaker set up there. They write the picture, which, like I said, I don't want people to go towards anything here anyway. What they do, that's it, bring that home. I'd like to get that. I'd like to tell them.
I never thought about closing it off like this. The sanctuary was pretty large here.
Yeah, it's
Hardly heated floor.
Right.
And those little furnaces did.
Oh, that's so bad. That's so bad.
Pretty good. No,
It's hard.
I go to the.
Yeah. A little bit at a time.
Hard, I go to the.
Yes, it is. Thank goodness, huh? That's right. Good evening. How are you?
You doing all right?
Better than nothing.
You bet. Everything's better than nothing. You got a plate?
Yeah.
Yes, I can talk. It's right there, Kate.
Soundboard
Oh,
right
it's down here.
That whole thing's coming down. You have any shoes back here?
Huh?
You have any shoes back here?
No, I just was told to come do something. Numero uno, por favor. Oh, it's a YouTube live, brother.
Wait, there's this. What do you mean, bro? Charge viewers to you.
One.
Well, that's mine. That's mine's gone.
So just press it and it'll turn on that.
Yeah,
I've not done it in a while.
then I'll tell you up and down. It's kind of your slide. I think it's these two, but maybe these two.
Okay. It's been a minute since I've done it.
And then I'll tell my woman to tell me if she can hear me from up there, and she'll just have to see what it does.
Okay.
All right, go ahead.
What do you mean?
Maybe. Might be turning up the wrong thing.
Put on the mic so that the ladies can, trying to go live tonight so that they can watch. So we'll see. So I don't know if she can hear me or not. If she would text Kate there, tell me.
I don't need to say, I have to pick up the floor.
Uh-oh. Okay. No, that's very loud.
Okay.
Very good. You want to hear it?
You sound very
Distorted.
Huh?
You sound like it's like breaking up.
sort of, it's breaking up. Maybe it's storm. Anyway, let's go to Lord in prayer. Father God, I thank you so much for this night that you have given us to just live into your word and just get to know you better. And I praise you for that. I pray, Father God, for Sister Patty as she goes through. I hope that it is all right. And just safe travel with her and a good report from her when she comes back. I pray, Father God, for the study tonight. I pray, Father God, for the things in it. I pray that you guide our hearts to your word and direct our path into it as we go. And I pray, Father God, for all those that have not come out tonight. I pray, Father, that they're safe and you know they meditate on your word tonight. I thank you. I receive it in Jesus' precious name. Amen. It's good to have you tonight. God, you gotta grab me by the one, please. I turn me up just a little more, Dan, please. That better? We're in Esther chapter 9, starting with 20th verse. We're going to try to wrap this up tonight really good. And next week we'll bring, I believe, I'm kind of tossed it around. I think going back and forth between the book of Acts and 1 Corinthians. But I'm not for sure yet which one. So we could probably look at either one if it started next week. God may give me Esther chapter 9, the 20th verse. Mordecai reported these events, and he sent letters to all the Jews throughout the provinces of King Xerxes, near and far, to have them celebrate annually the 14th and 15th days of the month of Adar. This is a time when the Jews got relief from their enemies, and it's a month when their sorrow was turned into joy, and the mourning into a day of celebration. He wrote them to observe the day as the days of feasting and joy, and giving presents of food to one another and gifts to the poor. So the Jews agreed to continue the celebration they had begun, doing what Mordecai had written for them. For Haman, son of Hammedatha, the Agagite, the enemy of all the Jews, had plotted against the Jews to destroy them and cast the fur. That is the lot for their ruin and destruction. But when the plot came to the king's attention, he issued written orders that the evil schemes Haman had devised against the Jews should come back onto his own head, and that he and his sons should be impaled on poles. Therefore, these days were called Purim from the word Pur, because of everything written in the letter, and because of what they had seen and what had happened to them. The Jews took it onto themselves to establish the custom that they and their descendants and all who join them should without fail observe these 2 days every year in the lake of sky from the time appointed. These days should be remembered and observed in every generation by every family, in every province, and every city. And these days of Purim should never fail to be celebrated by the Jews, nor should the memory of these days die out among their descendants. So Queen Esther, daughter of Ahab, along with Mordecai, the Jew, wrote with full authority to confirm the second letter concerning them. And Mordecai sent letters to all the Jews in 127 provinces of Xerxes' kingdom, words of goodwill and assurance, to establish these days of Purim as their days of many times, as Mordecai the Jew and Queen Esther had decreed for them, and as they had established for themselves and their descendants in regard to the times of fasting and limitation. Esther's decree confirmed these regulations about Purim and was written down in the record. King Xerxes imposed tribute throughout the empire to his distant shores, and all his acts of power and might, together with a full account of the greatness of Mordecai, whom the king had promoted, are they not written in the book of the names of the kings of Media and Persia? Mordecai the Jew was second in rank to King Xerxes, preeminent among the Jews and held in high esteem by his many fellow Jews, because he worked for the good of his people and spoke up for the welfare of all the Jews. Man, that was a mouthful. Amen. We have, like I said last week, chapter 9 is kind of just a tone down, and the writer here is kind of just recap and tell them what's happening. And he's saying, I've sent out letters. That's how we start this. I've sent out letters And I'm writing indicating the establishment of remembrance of all these days. That's what he's telling. I'm sending it out to so you can remember what's happening. And so that's going to get very important. These verses tonight, I'm going to attack really quick because they're very self-explanatory. So I'm going to attack them. But I've got a point at the end that I want to make. If you have any questions, just speak up and shout or whatever, because I don't want to say anything. But verse 20 and 21. We got to know that this was put into effect, Purim was put into effect because of the celebration that broke out. It broke out immediately. They're celebrating what's happened, how they've been delivered. And so he sends out a letter and saying, keep this day, and then it's still in effect today. It's still to celebrate Purim to this day. And verse 22 says this, at this time when the Jews got relief from their enemies, and the month when sorrow turned into joy, and their mourning into a day of celebration. He wrote them and observed the days and days feasting and joy and giving presents of food. This is still done today. They send out presents of food to their family members, to their loved ones. They also stand and they read the book of Esther, the book of Daniel, Ezra, and the book of Nehemiah, which is Esdras 3 and 4 in the Hebrew. But they stand and read these, and they also, when the book of Esther is being read, they have noisemakers that they make with excitement. When the name Mordecai is said, they cheer and they shout. When the name of Haman is said, they boo and they hiss and make awful sound because, he was awful. So, this is still celebrated and still a very big festival, and understanding that as we attack that. The Talmud prescribes drinking and celebrating on Purim until one is no longer to tell the difference between Mordecai be blessed and Haman be cursed. So they'll get so drunk on this day that they can't even, they're saying their speech is so slurred that they can't, when they say Mordecai be blessed and Haman be cursed, it just sounds, it doesn't sound any different. It sounds like a wrangling of words. And it's a very important day. Verse 23, and so the Jews agreed to continue the celebration. They just said, we're going to do what we done originally. This is the day that this happened. We broke out, so we're just going to keep doing it. They agreed to it. And verse 24 and 25, just to recap of Haman's designs and how it all came back on him. He's the one that set up the pole, but yet him and his sons are the ones that died on it. And then verse 26, which means lot. And we know that Haman, he casted the lot in the beginning to establish what day it was going to happen on, what day he was going to wipe out the Jews. And so this is just a reversal of roles. They're using it to remember the very thing that was cast to set their fate in hand. And the reversal was the fact that fate ended up being their promise coming to fruition. And in the plural form, is actually a Persian word. Garal is the Hebrew word for lot, but is actually a Persian word. Is the Hebrew plural, is the plural, so anytime you see so it'd be lots. That's why you see in the NIV translated lots. It's in plural instead of just a lot. And so Purim is the plural of that. And verse 27, the Jews took it on themselves. Now see, this is very important. The Jews took it upon themselves to establish it. Mordecai and Esther, neither one are priests. They're not kings. They're not Moses. Moses was the one that was given the days to celebrate. He was the one that put the original law in. These are the days you're to celebrate the Passover and so on and so forth. And they're not in this place to actually establish a law, but they did. What gave them the right, do you think? What do you think, sisters? What gave them the right? Means they're not priests, they're not the king. What'd you say? The Lord gave them the right. The Lord delivered us. And when He delivers us, He wants us to celebrate. He wants us to remember it. And like I said, I'm going to take you deeper here. I'm trying to go fast. There's a lot of words here. But this is very important that we remember this. And so they understood how important this was, how big this was, and what had happened in their lives. And so they said, we agreed we're going to do this. We made the decision. We don't need God to tell us to celebrate. He's given us the permission to celebrate because He's the one that delivered us to celebrate. And so all we're doing by celebrating is celebrating Him and what He's done in our lives. So there was nothing wrong with it. They didn't need God to come down and say to celebrate. They knew they should celebrate. They knew. And so that's major. That's major. And then verse 28, these days should be remembered and observed in every generation by every family, in every province, and every city. And these days of Purim should never fail to be celebrated by the Jews. He's saying don't stop. Never stop. It needs to be remembered, not just by you, but your children's, every generation down the line. They need to remember what God done here. And then verse 29 is the first time it says, so Queen Esther. Remember, Esther is her Persian name. And then it says, daughter of Abihail, and I probably butcher that tonight, but that's the given name of her father, and that is Hebrew. So it's the first time in this whole book that it actually tied her. Before it announced her as a Hebrew, give her Hebrew name, then only referred to as Esther in her Persian name. Huh? Hadassah is her Hebrew name, and they don't give that name again until they introduce her in the beginning. They introduce her her father here, but don't ever refer to her again. It's always Esther. Until this point, it ties the Persian and the Hebrew together, and I thought that was pretty neat when you see that tying her role. And then it goes further here. Along with Mordecai the Jew wrote with full authority. Now look at this. This is pretty awesome because a Jewish woman at this time really didn't have a lot of authority, isn't expected to have a lot of authority. Men are supposed to be in those leadership positions, and she's the one now. It says that she's confirming this by her full authority. It's saying that she's the one with the authority now. And so this is a pretty good staple of how God works, is taking somebody that out of mind, that ain't expected to be in that position, and using them to confirm everything, to say, I'm the one with the power, I'm the one with the authority, so I'm stamping my name to it, I'm stamping my approval. And by sending a second letter, this first letter, remember Mordecai sent it, this is the second letter right here, and it kind of goes through the same thing. But this is her just saying, I agree with what Mordecai sent. Mordecai and I have discussed this. This is what we want done. And it's her showing her authority as a woman, which is amazing, as a Jewish woman in this time frame, and her standing out. Esther's come a long way, is she not, in this book? I mean, from the woman that's just kind of sitting in the back, and Mordecai and now she's taking hold and taking reign of what God's called her to do. And she's using it and applying it and making a statement for women all over. And so that's it goes a little further here. Again, the second letter, and just for confirming everything, verse 30 through 32, it just reminders. Really, I like that we need to look at 31. It says their descendants in regard to their times of fasting and lamentation. See, that's very important because it don't say the times of celebration of the promise. It's the time, remember, the times of lamentation and praying. And so fasting and lamentation. And so he's really pointing that out in this letter. And then Esther's decree confirmed these regulations about parimcy. It's Esther's decree that confirms it. It ain't Mordecai. It's Esther decree that confirms it and staples it and says, I want this done, and it's written down in the records. And then chapter 10, it says, King Xerxes imposed tribute. This is really telling what King Xerxes, how he ends his reign to the empire of distant shores, just saying he was great, and all of his acts and power and might together a full account of greatness of Mordecai, who the king had promoted. Are they not written in the book of the annals of the kings of Media and Persia? And them records, a lot of them have been lost, but as it was passed down through generations, in the other time they would have been able to look back at these records and they would have been able to see it. This is establishing this really happened. Remember, we got in the beginning of the book, and there's so many even Christian scholars who want to dismiss this book, but it shows you this is actual history. This has happened. It's in there, and like I said, some of them records have been lost, but what hasn't been lost is the fact that this happened, and we have this word testifying to it. This is the word of God. It'll last, and it will not ever fail. And so, verse 3, Mordecai the Jew was second rank to King Xerxes, preeminent among the Jews, and held the highest esteem by his fellow Jews. This tells his greatness, how he promoted a lonely man out of the king's gate, servant at the king's gate. He's promoted to the second position by the favor of God on him, but now also the favor of God. All the Jews recognize him, and he don't let that power go to his head. He's still loved. He's still adored. You know, by the time the reign ends, and it says because he worked for the good of his people and spoke up for the welfare of all the Jews. He showed his care and compassion for all of them. Now, the book of Esther, technically, the form we have is the oldest known form. Esther chapter 10 actually continues in the Apocrypha. There was a later edition, and it is believed, if we pick it up in Esther chapter 10, verse 4, Mordecai is actually telling of a dream that he had regarding all this. And it goes on to tell how he dreamed this and how it began to come to pass. They believe it's a later writing, and so it is left, but you can read that in the Apocrypha. It's kind of an interesting read if you ever want to take it. But whether it really was or not, and whether it was true or not, it's hard to say. If they found it in some storage, writing that Mordecai had put up or something, and then somebody recorded it later, it is a possibility. That's always a possibility. But we always take, and it stops here because the divine inspiration God. He is divinely inspired. God's got in there what he wants and what he needs. And so we have that. But like I said, it is an interesting read. I've read part of it. I haven't read all of it. But it's only about 6 chapters long. It goes to chapter 16, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, and then it finishes chapter 10 through, I think there's 13 verses in chapter 10. So, like I said, you can find it on the internet and it's translated into English. But I want you to see tonight, in this book, in this part right here, we have got Esther and Mordecai saying we need to establish a celebration day, a day of remembrance, a day of things that happened. When we were at Youth Fire a couple weeks ago, the title, the whole deal was about legacy and leaving a legacy. And Friday night, Brother Ronnie Glenn, he preached out of Joshua, and where they were crossing the Jordan, and they're crossing over the dry land, and God told Joshua, he said, send out the elders, one from every tribe, and pick up a rock, carry it on their shoulder, and bring it to shore, and lay it and stack the rocks, all 12, so that you can see it for remembrance. And every time your kids ask, they will see it and remember what happened, how you crossed on dry land. This will be a memorial to what I've done for you, so that your kids can see it, you can remember it. See, so God's saying, so there was no day of celebration for this set in stone. It was the stones that were set in the memorial. What God wants is us to leave a legacy. He wants us to leave a memorial that when He applies something in our life, He does something in our life, then Every generation sees it. We make an impact. Every generation follows. It impacts our life, but it don't stop there. And when we celebrate things, when we make them out to be something great, the guy's done something great, and we sit there. I mean, how many celebrate being born again on the day he was born again as your birthday? No, many of us do. But it's actually, that was the day we were actually born, is it not? But our lives actually really was set into motion. The old man was dead and gone. He died. We should be celebrating on the day we were born again. I mean, all honesty, our birthday, we should celebrate then. We don't do that, though. We still have that same day we were born. But it was a special day, and to acknowledge it, and to celebrate it, and remember. In this book, I saw 5 things that were celebrated. I mean, 5 things we need to remember. 5 things that need to be a staple. In the beginning, the Jews saw their lives threatened. They saw their lives being taken out. They need to remember them. We need to remember where we come from. There's so many oftentimes, we get older Christians and they get so, I've walked with the Lord for 50 years, and they forgot where they come from. And then a young Christian comes in and they're struggling with some things, when you're a young Christian and there are little things you just can't get over the hump and you're trying to, and you get pulled back in. We're not as sympathetic sometimes. Why don't you just give it to the Lord? You know what I'm saying? We get a little, we got to remember this. We've got to remember this. We've got to remember the things that God took some time to work through, help us work through. We got to remember how He took us from these things. We should never forget where He delivered us from. The Jews had to remember in this. Now, I'm not saying we sit there and we go back to it, we meditate it. We've got past it. We're not dwelling in it anymore. But we remember where we came from. We remember what God brought us out from. It's our testimony, is it not? If this didn't happen in the beginning of the book of Esther, if their lives were not threatened, the rest of the book is all for naught. There would have been no, why did God need to deliver them if their lives were in jeopardy? If their lives were on the line, then why do you ever need to deliver them? He needed to deliver them from the very beginning because their lives were on the line. So it needs to be remembered. It's been part of your testimony. It should never be thrown away, so I forgot. We should remember and testify. Why? Because it shows other generations there's hope when you're going through this. There's hope. If you have a drug addiction, kick the drug addiction, an alcohol problem, that's a testimony to those who are doing the same thing. It speaks volumes of who God is and who God has made you to be. I'm an overcomer. It's the only way I can be an overcomer is I overcame something. And it's our testimony, and it can't ever be forgotten. And so it needs to be a staple. And that's the first thing that we notice in this book is their lives on the line. And so we got to celebrate that very fact, our lives on the line. We don't always like to think about it that way, do we? Especially when we're going through trial and tribulation, but it's the very thing that if we celebrate it now, knowing my life is on the line, but my God's bigger and better, and I'm going to be delivered from it. That's what He says. He takes me in the good times and bad, in the ups and downs, make me in everything. In everything, give that. And in everything. And so that's the only way we praise Him in the good times and bad. We give thanks in the good times and bad. Everything we're going through. And so when we reach His place and we're sitting that student, see that's an ultimate testimony to young Christians is when they see somebody going through a trial or tribulation in their life, and they're praising God still. They're just thanking Him. God, I thank You for what I had to endure today. They're looking at you and saying, "What? Yeah, because I know that what happened today, no matter how bad it was, my God's got a bigger and better plan, and He's going to crush what happened today. And I'm going to overcome it. I'm going to stand. I'm going to shout. I'm going to dance. I'm going to sing." I'm going to rejoice. So I'm going to say thank You for today. And then young people see that and they're like, and they grab a hold of that and they begin to try it and they begin to, the things begin to change in their life. See, So we got to remember that. We got to sit on that beginning, that very beginning. Our life is online. Is our life not online no matter what? There's already God's chosen people. Their lives are still online. Our lives, the enemy looks to steal, kill, and destroy every day. He's looking to take you out. Why? Because it's Wednesday night crowd, right? You're the ones that come in, you're digging in the Word of God. You want more. So he wants to take you out more because you got more to give. Those that don't have nothing to give, he ain't too worried about that. He ain't attacking there as much. They don't got the tools to fight. They don't got the energy to fight. They're beating and broken because they don't have it. They don't want it. They don't desire it. They do. And so that's the first thing. The second thing I see is when it changed. When was that? When they fasted and prayed. It's when everything began to change. Their mindset began to change. Esther's mindset began to change. The hearts of the people began to change. It was fasting and praying. Remember that. You know, it's easy to say. Is it not? We all say, I'll pray. It's easy to say, but it's not always easy to press in and just really try to get. And we discussed fasting that week, and we went through there, and it ain't always easy to just get down, get rid of everything else, get quiet for days, hours, maybe weeks, whatever it is. That ain't always easy to do, to get all the junk out of the way and just get into God. Right. You're absolutely right. Right. Yeah, we discussed that earlier. Sue and Roger and Nurse were here, and we were talking about how these young people, they're ready to give up their rights, or they're fighting for rights that they think that they don't have, and I won't get into all that, but you know, they don't realize what it costs to get where here. They don't, to fight the freedom that we've had. They didn't see the fight, and they want just everybody handing things and giving things, and that's the enemy ain't going to give you nothing but bad stuff. And so, it ain't no value. Life has lost its value. Here we are, fasting and prayer. And it's really the thing and the staple that when young generations see this, see, we're leaving a legacy, we're leaving a memorial. When they see we can separate everything that's going on, we can get quiet with God, we can shut the world down around us, and we can step into that spiritual realm and just get alone with God. They see it. They recognize it. This has dragged on me a little bit, and you can testify to it. I've heard other people say like this, sister, but you go and spend a couple of days in prayer and just fasting and come out, and people say, I have people say, your head shines. Well, that's the glory of God on you. I've been with God for days. I mean, and it's the truth of the matter. You will, and people will see it all over you. When they'll see the presence of God just radiate out. And it ain't just the pastor or the prayer leader. It's anybody who would just get alone and press in with God and just get themselves in the junk. We know Moses, it said he would go in and sit in the tabernacle. He'd have to come out. And they would have to, he was so bright that they were, because the glory of God was all over them. They couldn't even look at it. Just from sitting in the presence of God. He was just radiating. They knew it. Didn't that Moses come out, he wouldn't have had to say nothing. He was so bright that they couldn't look at him. They knew he'd been with God. They knew it. Fasting and prayer. You don't see it. It's a memorial. See legacy. This is what we want to leave. The third thing that I want you to see tonight is the raising someone up. I just come off of yesterday, a woman, that's what, she's supposed to be a man. It's supposed to be a man who raised us higher. No, a woman, but God raised the woman. He raises up those that just say, use me. And that's a testimony. I mean, look, he used me. I mean, that's a testimony. That old hardened heart, all thinks of himself, selfish old guy, and now God raised him up and used me. He raises up those who are just willing vessels. It's a testimony. It isn't who people think. It ain't who they label should be raised up. It's who God says, I want to raise up. He says, I'm raising someone up for such a time as this. It's because Esther, is he not raising someone up for such a time as this? It's you. It's you. For such a time as this. You're the one. You and I are the ones. Because he's raising up for such a time as this. He's raising this group of people up to be the light to this town, to be that one. It would be the prayer warrior, the witness warrior, the one that will go and just love on them, the open up, comforting arms, the ones that can financially bless the community, those that whatever capacity that he's raised you up into doing, when we do our part, I've raised you up for such a time as this. Not everybody's going to get behind the pulpit and preach. There's a lot of people who want to, there's a lot of people who don't. I don't want to most of the time, but he's raised me up to do that. And he says, I just need a willing vessel. Let me use you like I want to use you first. Let me use you. Let me put you. Don't fight me on that. Let me put you into the king's house where I want you. If I want you to be second in command, if I want you to be the queen, whatever it is, let me raise you up to that position. Raising up someone is really every one of us want to make an impact in life somehow, someday. I don't care if you're born again Christian or not. Every sports player, they want to be in the Hall of Fame. They want to be remembered. Every movie star wants to go into wherever they go in, and they want to be remembered for ages. They want their movies. Rock stars want to go to the Rock Hall of Fame, Rock and Roll Hall of Fame. They want the golden record or whatever it's called. They want to be known. They want to be remembered. They want to leave a legacy. Every one of us wants that. This is the moment Esther still talked about today. Thousands of years later, she left a legacy. Mordecai is still talked about today. He left a legacy. He left an imprint. God had thought that was so important. He said, I'm going to write him in the book. And that's where we come. That's where we come in. We stand up. It's no longer about me and you. It's about leaving that legacy of God, what God done here in Theodosia, what God done in the Bridge to the Living Word, what God done in this very building, what God done in these very streets, what God done. That's what we want. For us, our legacy changes, but we want to make an impact. Ours, as Christians, I hope, you want to make an impact for God, no longer for yourself. Our impact is different. You're absolutely right. But every one of us want to leave that kind of legacy. We want to leave it behind. And so, how do we remember? It's like God brings us something to it. God uses us because in the end, we know that whatever we put our hands to, it will succeed if God's in it. If God's ordained and told us to do it, it's going to succeed. It may be bumps and bruises along the way. It may be ups and downs. But in the end, it's God gets the glory. God gets the honor because He wants to be remembered. Even a book that don't even mention the name of God, it remembers God in it. It shows that God was the intermediary. God was the one that brought it to fruition. It was God when the moment they humbled themselves and prayed, God had His say. And so it's God raising up someone for such a time as this. Fourth thing that I see in this book is you must act in obedience. Remember that everything we do, you must act in obedience. Everything. It's got to be in obedience to God, what God called us to do, what God called us to. Like I said, I really believe in Esther fasted and prayed because she didn't know. She said, I will fast and pray. And then she come back with a plan after she fasted and prayed. I believe she got a word from God. It don't tell us that. But there's all signs point to this. This was the plan. God spoke into her. She didn't just decide how she was going to go to the king. She was afraid to go to the king. She was scared because the king had not called her. But she fasted and prayed. She's put on her, gets up from it. She puts on her pretty clothes, goes out and starts her stuff in front of the king, draws his attention. You know, there was something that drew God, the wheels turned in her life. It was God speaking to her. And she had to act in obedience. You know what? See, we just discussed that just a moment ago about young people just wanting. They think that because God may have told them, young people, they get a word from God, and they think that God should just hand it to them. Parents tell kids something, they just should hand it to them. You know, it's the world we live in, that micro generation that just wants it now, and they want it because they deserve it, because they were born, so they deserve it. But we must, there's work sometimes involved in getting the things of God. God says, I will give them to you, but you got to walk my path to get to them. You've got to be in obedience to do it. 2 John tells us this. Find it here. Verse 6, it says this, it says, and this is love, that we walk in obedience to his command. We walk in obedience to his command. As you have heard from the beginning, his command is that you walk in love. Now, he also tells us somewhere, he says, everything must be done in love. You know, it's his command. Everything must be done in love. You must be obedient in love. You got to be obedient to God's command, which his command is love. And so, if we want the things of God, he's already put the statement. The first command he says is love. Love. Everything must be done in obedience. And my command is love. So see, there is things that's got to be done in accordance with God. You can't just walk around and expect the things of God to come when you're not walking in obedience to God. You know, talking about legacy and raising someone up. If we're not doing it in love, God ain't going to raise us up. If we're, what Esther said, I don't care about myself, I can die, but I need to love them. Even when King Xerxes, he saved her. He took Haman and hung him on the pole. She said she's fine. She's in the king's house. She says, no. It's still my people. I'm worried about my people. Mordecai, he was all concerned for his people. He was concerned for those that all the Jews. He was not concerned about himself. He said, all of us. It's not all of us. It was love. What stood. Right here, the end tells us in verse 3, it says, because he worked for good of his people and spoke up for the welfare of the Jews. He worked for the good. He walked in obedience. Obedience to God. He done it all in love. Everything. Love is better than sacrifice. But what happens if we love? It becomes sacrifices. And we got to put ourselves on the back. We got to put ourselves aside sometimes to love those around. Yeah, I'm start preaching that. This excites me because so many people they say, well, we love everybody, but somebody said something about it, so I'm not going to talk about it. I'm not going to go talk to them, and I'm going to go bow them over here down at Cookies and but I love them. I can't say nothing nice about them. When I see them, I give them all word behind their back or whatever may be the case. That's the church, is it not? And then we wonder, we can talk power all day long. We can preach on the baptism of the Holy Ghost all we want. But none of it acts in accordance if we don't act in love. If it ain't done in love, nothing, God will not manifest Himself. He will not, if this body of believers don't love. That's why the church is failed in so many regards, because they have not loved the world around them. They love the church. They love them in their four corners. They don't love the one next door. They don't love the church down the street when it's one body of believers. The church has spent more time in competition than loving one another. No, we're not a blessing. If we start, let's skip on the competition thing. If we do the way most of the church acted, only reason we do things outside the four walls is so that we can say that we've done more than what we have done. Or we do more outside the four walls because, well, we're going to get more. We want all them to see, so they'll come over here. So we got the bigger church. It's no longer love. See, love is just that I do it out of submission. I do it out of because I care for it. Our logo says we love this town. That's what I want to see from this part of the body. When we make up the toe, the pinky toe, whatever part we make up in the body, that's what we want to do. We want to love this town because that's what's going to change this town. It's the love of God. Right. And then we wonder why no one wants to in the church, because we have those signs and wonders that follow. We don't, like I said, we can preach power all day long, but we're not going to receive the power of God if we're not in obedience. We're never going to reach the promise that God said. He can give us a vision. We can, and if we're not walking in obedience up to that vision, if we're not walking in love through it, we'll never reach the vision. We can work and strive and keep saying we're doing it as unto God, but if we're not doing it in obedience, in loving fashion, in the way He said, it will not happen. It will not come to fruition. Why did this come to fruition? Because He loved. Every generation that follows, they will tell. Young people can tell if you love them. You're not going to fool young people. They know if you love them. Do they not? I mean, they see real love. Yeah, you can buy some kids' love sometimes, but ultimately, who's a young boy or a young girl run to? Run to mama. Because there's nothing like mama's love, right? There's some run to daddy. Not that daddy don't love them. They know mama loves them. It's that draw, that connection. That's the love of God that builds a connection. That's what builds the family atmosphere. Is that love of God that you feel it, it draws you into them. You ever just been in a room that you just felt so comfortable with somebody, you just feel like I can open up. It's the love of God. It ain't them. It's them being obedient. So many marriages fail because they love. They don't have that love in the marriage. They don't feel the love coming out. They can stand there and say they love each other, right? But until they feel that draw to one another, they don't draw to one another. They need to feel that they're loved. It ain't because their husband or wife goes out and buys them things. It's because they really are concerned is, how was your day? What's going on inside? They really care. They feel it. When they ask, how was your day? They feel that they really care. Anybody can walk and say, how's your day? You recognize that. You ever had somebody, how was your day, and kind of blow you off? I've had that before. It stings a little bit. Why don't you even ask me, or you break off in the middle of it, cut you off. Well, my day was fine too. Go ahead, Joe.
It's a verb. It's an action word.
You
get nothing.
Right. Yeah.
Love and prayer.
Yeah. It is the acting in obedience. You see, here's the four things that lead us up to the fifth one. But these four things all set a legacy. These are all the four things that are going to change our kids, their kids. These are things that are going to change the kids that we encounter and all those that we encounter. These are the four things. It's the very thing that we've been delivered from this. We went through this. We were rose up. We loved. We fasted and prayed. And now we're acting out in obedience to God. And then the fifth thing brings us to what? The promise. That's what they celebrated that day. It's happened. It's done. They already knew it was going to happen months before. 8 months before, they recognized it. It's done. They put it in God's hand. They saw it. But now the promise is coming for fruition. It's here. And they jumped. They celebrated. They danced. They drank. Not that time you drink. Don't get me wrong tonight. But that's what they done. They were excited. They were happy. That's why we rejoiced when those that they received the promise. When they received the promise, when they received the promise, they got excited. They're happy. It's the most joyous. That's why we celebrate with the saints when they get their deliverance. That's why we celebrate when they get the promise. I mean, that's why we celebrated Sunday. It was a major milestone for so many. Praise God. We baptized 10 Sunday morning. We dedicated 2 more. This is awesome. This is a joyous moment for the body. Why? Because the body celebrates together. So what? They rejoice together. They cry together. When somebody's weeping with them. Why? You're there to console. You're there to people. When the body hurts, you're hurt. So this is what we're trying to remember. We're trying to set a memorial. We're trying to set a legacy. And that's what they're doing in this chapter. They're saying, we're writing all this down. We're sending it out. Don't forget it. Celebrate it. Mark it. Every year at the same time. Do not forget what happened. Don't forget where we come from. Don't forget what it took to get here. Don't forget that at the end, the promise is waiting. And when you celebrate this, then you've got other reasons to celebrate because you know that the promise is at hand. And you saw God working through before. You've seen it by our testimony. And so why do you think your testimony would be any different? This was taking out a whole group of people. It would wipe out genocide, wipe out a group of people. And God said, I'm not allowing it. I'm intervening. Yes. Provision. Yeah. The promise is right. But that was when we started. Without the test in the beginning, we would never reach it. We needed all that. And so we get here and we see all this. Wherever somebody is in this transition, whether they're in the moment, that they're going through something, we can remind them of the promise. When they're in the moment that they're weeping and they're praying and they're fasting and they feel like they've done everything, but they can't get a word. And God gave them a direction. God gave them a word. And God brought them the promise. See, it all marks, God raised you up for such a time as this. He's raised up. He raised me up and brought me through. He showed me what I needed to do. And then I had to act in obedience. No matter where they're at, it's a memorial. This book is a memorial to just that. Every book in the Bible tells us a memorial. That's the whole point. We're writing the book of Acts still to this day. It still continues, the book of Acts, because it's our acts that God, when we're walking in obedience, when God's using the body to do. One day, somebody has to write a book what's going to happen in Theodosia over the next 5 to 10 years. Maybe sooner. I don't know. But what God does here There's somebody gonna have to write a book and testify and say, this is what God spoke in a year and a half ago. And it's moving it along. There was ups, there was downs, there was people that threw in the towel, there was people that the enemy used to try to take it out. There was times that had the pastor want to throw in the towel and walk away. But God said, and so he brought us through, he raised up this person, that person, and that person, and he put them in this place and this place. And it's going to be such a testimony. There's going to be an book. It's going to be a memorial. Angel's going to write the book. She likes to write the book. She got a book that got sent off and it's going to be, it's going to be friendly, right? I mean, it's going to be awesome. Thank God. Where they have to write her book, it comes out. Anyway, get sidetracked. Raising up this body, his body, to do that, the thing he has spoke, and we just got to walk in obedience, do it in love, just do it in love. And wherever he raises us up and puts us for that time, I mean, all true. I mean, I be the pastor here by the time he may raise somebody else up and say, I'm moving you aside. It's whatever he wants. And if we act in love and move in love, then that's what he wants. It will be his plan in our obedience. And we got the promise that says, I promise this is what I spoke, this is what I said. Just watch it come to fruition and live it. And it's a living testimony to who I am and who you are. You're a man, you're a woman, you're a God, you're a king or a queen of God. You live overcoming and abundant lives because of me and your obedience to me. It's amazing. This book I have enjoyed. I really have. Sometimes maybe that's a little over the field about once or twice, but for the most part, I mean, it's just a book for. Like I said, Martin Luther wanted to throw it out. Get rid of it. Too much sex in it, and too much sensualism, and it don't mention God, so just throw it out. God's divine, equipment is divine word. He got it in, it spoke it in, it placed in his word, and he wanted it in it. Yes. In Revelation, he is if you not add or take away from some of the translators there, the King James, I'm not confident that he does, don't change one iota. And he says it is, it's his, he inspired this, he put the wheels in motion. There's a reason the Apocrypha ain't in here. The Maccabees, first and second Maccabees. There's a reason the rest of Esther. There's other books out there. There's a reason the guy didn't get it inspired to put them in. He said they can hide the book. That's where the Bible comes from. The book. It is the book. It is the original book. It is the book. The Bible. So praise God. Any comments? Any suggestions where you want to go next week? Absolutely right. You're absolutely right. But see, that's where it should begin. When it begins on the side, I'm giving up control and letting my life have it. Right. Right. It is a shame that so many in the church now, they find them again, but they don't get so far and they stop and they got back on themselves. It's become about me and become about what I want at the end of the day. It's not about what I want. I would fail. I failed before, that's why I had to give it up. I failed miserably in everything I've done. I thought it was going great, it looked good, everything was sailing along, and then it was crashing. Why? Because this is on me. Something's got to go. Any other comments? Questions? Everybody agree? I just love it. You guys do it. I love it. Did you have it? Did you have it? You looked it up. Oh, okay. The priest carried thumb and urine, urine, yeah. But what it was a guy, that they wore around their chest, and there was a guy in there, or which they would cast a lot, but it was urn and thumb, that's what it was. I couldn't tell them the first one. Yeah.
There we are.
There they are.
There's a 12.
Oh, yes, yeah. It had a stone through each tribe, yeah. And, yeah. Yeah. But it was essentially the same thing. It was cast and die. But we discussed that quite a few weeks back, you know. I said, right. And I was saying, wouldn't it be nice sometimes to just get a word from God by throwing a die and say, everybody would just, oh, do I need to go left or right? You know, what should I do in this situation? You're throwing a die. So it kind of be nice, but the Holy Spirit, He wants a personal, He's a personal God, He wants a personal relationship, He wants to personally speak to us. And so that's why He's given us the Holy Spirit. I mean, so, yeah.
Lord, you're allowed to do that.
We don't, we're absolutely right. We've already won if we just stick with Him. So we're not gambling up. We know we've won, but we've overcome process. Let's go ahead and come up and pray. I'll be praying. I am kind of like I said, bouncing around between 1 Corinthians or the book of Acts. Really don't know. I've heard back and forth on both of them. And I've spent a lot of time in the Old Testament lately. I want to get us back into the New. And I'm still be preaching out of Exodus for another couple of weeks. But actually, I got a lot that I'm going to preach out of Exodus. But yeah, I'm going to take a big break from something like that. I do want to get into the New next week and just be a prayer. I don't know. I couldn't do my goal. We got Sister Mary, she on the East Coast, where she did. There's a family, New Hampshire, I think that's what she said. She was visiting family, she had in Pack, and in Chicago, so we're going to keep them in prayer. Yeah. Oh, okay. All right. Well, she came in and introduced herself, and I didn't. When you said we're in God, I didn't put that together. I don't know why. I just sometimes that's right. I think that was really. Oh yeah. This is Karen. Yes. Oh my goodness. Now I feel really bad. I am like, whoa, goodness gracious, we need to talk. So, I don't know, the last couple of weeks I haven't been like scatterbrained, and I am so sorry. She told me he was coming in, and I need it, come on. Oh, yes, Lord. Yes, Lord.
Give me that peace. All these things will come to you. Thank you, child.
Yes.
It's done.
Receive that. Thank you. Amen. All right. Well, I'm sorry. I am like, Woo! Praise God. Any other prayer requests? Like I said, keep them in prayer. Your grandma.
She might have that back surgery.
Okay. Maybe we better come on. Any other prayer requests? His grandma, them traveling, with delinquents around here. We've got a young generation. We've got raising up some young men that are going to stand and they're going to do some great things. So, that's okay. He's just mad. Yeah, but he's going to do some mighty works in the school this year. God has called him to the ministry. We got that word from the flag 2 weeks ago. He's fired.
I had a little before that.
Right, but it kind of manifests before then. And so we shared that with J.D. Fire and I'm excited for him. And he already said he's going to be witnessing this year to bring some kids in home. But he needs some boy help, between my boys. And him, that's about it now with Michael gone. And we got a few girls, but we need some youth boys coming in. Even the little kids, we've got a lot of girls, but not a lot of boys. So we have a lot of boys. There's nothing wrong with that, but we would like some boys too. We just need some Mordecai's in here. And some Davids. Yes. And we need to be praying. We can practice again next week, but the kids will be going back to school a week from Thursday. Skylar goes to college on Thursday. We're praying for them all. But from all, especially Skylar, be all right. She's all but she may kill me. But yes, and Amber's really starting to do in college. Just some exciting things going on. We'll let this be some prayer. Father God, I'm so thankful. I'm thankful for everything you do. I'm thankful for everyone in this circle. I'm thankful for what you got planned and what you're going to do with these as you raise them up to do your will and to be your hands and feet. And as we walk in obedience, I pray we live every day in obedience. We walk with your spirit in our hearts and our minds. We walk by the fullness of your spirit and then walk in power and authority in this life as overcomers. And I just pray, Father God, now, we call down your power and your might, your hedge of protection on those that are traveling. Sister Mary and Brother G.W. and Sister Pat Holmes, as they're out and about. And I pray you bring them home safe. And I pray they come back and they're fired up and ready to just deliver more of your word to this group of people, to deliver it to this community, and to love on all those that they encounter as they're out. I pray, Father God, for Caden's grandma. I pray for healing. And whatever this surgery is, we pray for hands of anointing on the doctors and the surgeons as they do and perform whatever it is that needs to be fixed. But we know, Father God, you are the healer. You are Jehovah Rapha. You are the healer. And we just proclaim your name and proclaim it into this situation. And I pray, Father God, she sees you through this. She sees your work in a mighty hand through it. And she draws to you. And I pray, Father, that you just continue to be with Caden as he goes forth to be your hands and feet in this school and here in Theodosia. I pray, Father God, that he has a boldness to speak thy word. He has a boldness to declare his testimony of what you've done, the testimony of you, of how you've worked in his life and what you're doing in his life, where you're going to take him and where you brought him up from. And Father God, I pray that you go through all of those that are going to school here over the next couple of weeks. I pray, Father God, that your safety, your angels encamped about them. We know the schools that, Father God, the enemy is strong in there. But Father God, we welcome you in the door. We come in and proclaim you have your way in every school, in every situation, your protection of our young people on this generation that you want to raise up to speak your word and be your voice. And so I pray and deliver that up now. I stand in the gap, and we stand in the gap, united Satan, you cannot have our young people. This is your generation, Father God. And so we just give them into you. We relinquish them and we speak power and authority into the school. It's your power and authority that will reign supreme in our colleges, in our high schools, all across America now and across this world, Father God. We thank you. We thank you so much for what you're raising us up to do individually. I pray that we're obedient. I pray that we just walk in authority and power. I love you, Father God, and I pray for any other prayer requests, spoken or unspoken, Father God. You've heard every one of them, and we declare it now. It's done. It's finished in Jesus' name. We receive that. We proclaim it. Oh, Lord, I thank you. I love you. I thank you for your anointing. I thank you for your power. I thank you for your word. I thank you that you are a God of promise. I thank you you're a God that we can seek after and come boldly to your throne, and we just deliver every request before it and just call it done and finished in Jesus' name. Amen, amen. Praise God. Thank you, guys. Amen. Praise God. Oh, God. Thank you for the rain. Yeah, thank you for the rain.
All around this wonderful.
Really? Wow.
Just like believing your friend who we went on the record, the next record was dry. So at least we're getting the.
Yeah, blowing over.
At least we were getting something.
Right.
You're okay, you know, of course, your mom's friend. Nobody in there, it's on the right.
Oh no. We can't keep her out of the decision making because she had, we've been here for years. So get it started.
So now we have some.
Tonight? But then, how would I get? I wouldn't be able to come until Sunday. I have basketball.
We'll come down here.
I have a basketball game Saturday.
Well, I think we come down here Friday night.
I'd like to.
Let's go play some games. Hey, come on.
It's good. It challenges us. It makes us again, you know, what they had it kind of know the wayside. I'm bad. Look at that.
They take it in, they spit it, there's that one judge, oh, yeah, we're not worried about that. Well, actually, everybody got it. But we don't have to be satisfied. Laws are not bad. It's bad. Laws are questions bad. That's what it is. You got like this. That's right. That's the whole process. We don't want to have to go get out of here. But we can do the best we can. We're best to leave the rest. You do all right? Yeah, so glad you are. Working on it. I got some. Second problem. This rate on it, all of it. No.
I'm not leaving yet. I'm just gonna go.
so much. And I want them to. Eventually,
You're calm.
That's awesome. That one would be.
I've heard of it, I don't know that I've ever, how much, awesome. It's awesome.
Come on, what you? Yes, I got weather. Come on, brother. I would have talked to him. No, you can't. You can't even.
I haven't left yet.
You can't even get 6 foot gold. Come on, ready?
I'm leaving Friday.
I'm just saying. Yes, okay.
Go, bro.
I might have done better if I would have left the trees alone.
What about your PC?
Did she, what did she say? Did she hear me or what?
Who?
Marlene,
I don't know. She said you were disoriented, distorted or something.
distorted?
This story.
Distorted.
It's not a kid. Oh, we're still live streaming, boys. We have 2 viewers. We have 2 viewers. We have 2 viewers.
Where?
Look at the viewers. Oh, wait, over there by lights.
We got 2 viewers.
By light.
By the time.
That's 2 viewers, there's 1 light.
There's 2 viewers, boys.
Oh, now we have a hair review.
Here it is.